Hi, everyone. Cynthia Allen. I'm super excited to bring to you some of the Your Learning Body alumni today. We're going to at least have Jane and Kathleen, but I think we'll have a couple more people who are joining us as well. And then there's you who are joining in to ask questions or make comments about whatever you feel you want to express at this juncture of Your Learning Body, where we're in this short time frame where you can join and become a part of the community and improve your life. So I know that getting your questions answered is important, and hearing from people other than me is important. So I'm really glad to have some variety for you to hear from today. There'll be another session at 6 p.m. my time, Eastern time, so that if you doesn't work for you, but you want to watch that one, you'll be able to watch that one on replay. I think the replays will definitely be out on Saturday. I don't think we're going to put them out immediately, but they'll be out on Saturdays. You can wait for that and patiently, maybe you can't. We'll see. Okay, so I'm going to ask, so here's the format. The format is we're going to talk to each of the people that that are here that are part of the Your Learning Body community for a variety of different number of periods of time. And then we'll do all that, and then we'll take questions. Okay, so that's kind of the format. If you are not going to be able to stay to the end and you feel like, oh my gosh, I have a super pressing question, I hope she's gonna get through it so I can get my question and put it in the chat, and I'll try to answer it before then. And I'm going to bring up Kathleen first. So I'm going to add you here, Kathleen, to the mix here. Let's see here. Hi, Kathleen. And let me let you unmute yourself. Hold it. That's my job. Okay. Should come up now for you.
Hello.
Hey, Kathleen. It's good to see you. And it's been such a delight to have you in the Your Learning Body community. So I wonder if you could just get us started with talking about what was going on in your life that you felt like joining this community would be a good idea. Becoming a member would be a good idea.
Well, I had been struggling with trying to manage muscle tension issues pretty much my whole adult life. And one way that was manifesting that was really bothering me was I'm a choral singer of classical music, so I sing in choruses, and it's almost ever since I opened my mouth, I've been struggling with this sense of like the brakes going on, or not having good longevity, or not having the sound that I wanted. And so um, I've tried many different modalities to improve that over the years. And we can talk about some of those if you like. Um, what finally got me to Feldenkrais was I sort of felt like I'd tried everything, you know. And
Go ahead and say a little bit more about what that everything might be, because that's what.
yeah, um, I did speech therapy, yoga, physical therapy, Alexander technique. Um, I'm probably missing a few voice lessons, of course, um, general exercise, and even like elaborate protocols to get myself ready for singing. You know, it became like psychologically a big deal. You know, I had to do certain things in a certain order or it wasn't going to work. Um, and then finally, just like canceling things and quitting things because I thought, you know, this just like I have this huge drive to do it, and it's just, you know, it just felt like this for so long. And I think I first heard the word Feldenkrais in a musical context. I sing with an orchestra, and someone had mentioned that a Feldenkrais practitioner was coming in to work with some of the string players. And I thought, interesting. I don't know what that is. But at some point in my explorations, I came across the name again, and I was just receptive to checking it out at that time. So I did a few pre-recorded lessons online, and it was just immediately clear to me that this was doing something for me that nothing else had. Um, it was so surprising and unexpected when um, you're laying on the ground, you're doing tiny movements. How can this be doing anything? But then when you stand up at the end, it's your body's rearranged, you're more comfortable. Um,
It must have
and
been
it was
really,
just,
it must have been,
sorry.
it must have been a really big surprise for you because you did a very subtle work with Alexander technique.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's a very subtle work and a beautiful,
Yeah.
yeah. So um, I think that it's quite interesting that you found something very unique in it because I see it as it relates to the other items, but I don't see it quite as much as it relates to Feldenkrais versus Alexander technique, although Alexander technique tends to be more hands-on. So I wonder if you want to say a little bit more about that because yeah, what's the shift there between those two works?
Yeah, I think Alexander was kind of a doorway for me into what this kind of work can feel like. I felt great after the sessions, but the effect would fade after a couple of hours, and then I had to wait until my next appointment with the practitioner came around. So, I'd feel great a couple of times a month, and that was great, but it wasn't sustainable. Um, and I didn't know at that time about Feldenkrais, so I didn't think about trying it again. It just sort of, I had that experience and it rested. And then at some point I encountered Feldenkrais and realized, yes, that subtlety that you're talking about, yeah, I recognize what you're talking about there. Um, One thing I really like about Feldenkrais is that it's there is a hands-on component, but there's also this very strong voice-guided component, which is what we work with here, and it's um, it's not dependent on visiting a practitioner. It's like I'm doing the improvements with my mind, and that's very powerful and useful to me, and I can use that every moment of my waking life. I don't have to wait for an appointment to come around, and um, that's been a real game changer for me.
Yeah. Well, you actually, I think you're in a Feldenkrais training, are you not, to
I
become a
am.
you are. So I'm even more intrigued that you joined your learning body. So whenever Feldenkrais people that are in training or practitioners join, I'm always like, oh, that's intriguing. So could you say a little bit about that?
I joined your learning body before I started the training, and it was um, it wasn't super well thought out. To be honest, I knew that I wanted to be doing a lot more of this technique, and I wanted to be part of like a complete community for it. I had been doing sort of one-off purchased recorded series for a year or so before I found out about your learning body, and um, it appealed to me that there was, um, you know, an expert practitioner leading this community. There's a large library of um, series and sessions that you can do, as well as like all the live interaction components, the live classes. We can talk after the live classes, we can have office hours, all of those things. So that appealed to me very much. And to be honest, I wasn't completely sure if I was going to continue with the community after the training program got going, but I'm liking how things are going, so I'm keeping it this way for a while at least. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, how has your life changed then as a result of joining? What's happened for you?
My singing is transformed. My teacher has noticed, big improvements in my comfort, my sound. I've noticed those improvements. Um, there's been psychological benefits that I didn't anticipate. I no longer treat singing like something I have to tiptoe around or be careful with or be afraid of. Um, And I think a big part of that is like the respect yourself key that you teach yourself about. I'm really very much more proactive about sensing how I'm doing what I'm doing while I'm doing it and realizing, oh, this is too much right now. I need to back off. And it sounds so simple, but in this environment, we are surrounded by all these sounds and people belting and a director saying, doing more, more, more. It's, you have to manage yourself. You have to learn to manage yourself so that you're available. You continue to be available. And the global muscle tension issues that I've had have really moderated. Um, Sitting for long periods is much more comfortable than it used to be. Walking for long distances is much more comfortable than it used to be. And I didn't really specifically set out to work on either of those things. So there's been kind of multiple whole body benefits.
Mm, that's sweet. That's sweet. I think that, it's interesting to hear you say a psychological shift around singing, and that you no longer have to tiptoe around it. And of course, I want to make that maybe just a little bit more relatable to people who aren't. So you were basically ending up with inflammation, tightness, kind of injury pattern from
Mhm.
singing this thing that you love. And so any of us can relate to something, this probably anyone here, that there's something that we are tiptoeing around in our lives, right? That we want to do, but we feel we have to be super careful, or we've given it up, or we have to control it, or whatever. So that's a really powerful wording for me, Kathleen, and I can really relate it to my own life, where I was able to reclaim pieces that I had long given up the possibility of being able to maybe do or stick with, or just be able to add more time to it. It's very sweet. And I think you've done a nice job of talking about this community piece. I even want to point out, actually, a couple of you here today, that's this is true for Jane, I know as well, that you even volunteered to peer lead one of our progress pods, which after somebody has been with us about 2 months, they become eligible to join. And the progress pods, you want to say something about a progress pod and how that goes for you?
Yeah, so I lead a progress pod, and I think it may have been one of the inaugural pods. We've been going for almost a couple of years now, and yeah, there's we've had a core group that shows up week after week. We select series from your learning body, and we do them together on Zoom using the tool that the platform provides, which is very easy to use by any of us in the group. And it's um, it's been really nice to get to know people over time. Practicing with the same group for a long period is really um, it's really been enjoyable and enriching for me.
You know,
And
you
that too.
Yeah, and you said something about when we were chatting recently. You said something about how you felt like I was talking about the fact that some people get overwhelmed by the idea of logging in and doing lessons from the library. So they only show up for the live classes, which is, of course, fine. Some people, that is really what they want to do, totally fine. I just want to say your learning body is like you make the membership whatever you want it to be. There's options to participate, and if you just choose any one of those options, you will more than get your not only your money's worth, but you'll start getting a change in your life. So people choose the things that are the most interesting to them. Some people don't come to life classes, maybe because of their schedule, but some people really don't like them. They like going to the library and studying on their own. And then there's this, I would say, fairly small group of people within the community that are participating in progress pods. And they're small groups, could be anywhere from like 4 or 5 people to up to 8 people, 8 or 9 people. So that's kind of a nice little, um, there's a little intimacy, it sounds like you've gotten from it, but you get to know each other over time.
Yeah, and there's people from all over. So I'm on the West Coast. We've got folks from Canada, New York, London. We had Australia for a while. So it's just a yeah, really nice way to get to know some folks too.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Is there anything you wished you would have known before you joined your learning body? Like you realize now that it was a game changer if you'd have known it, or maybe something that was felt unanswered that you just thought, well, I guess I'll just jump in and find out.
It was it was a step into the unknown for me because I've never been part of a membership like this before. And, not, I don't know, I'm the person who's got to, see and check everything out before I plunge in. And there were many aspects that I could check out, through this process that you do. But at some point, I just decided, well, I'm just gonna take the plunge and see what this really is. And it exceeded my expectations.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing with me. Okay. And the group, Kathleen, we really appreciate that. So I'm going to go to Jane next. If I'm missing a Your Learning Body member that was planning to talk today, because maybe your name is not real clear to me, can you send me a little chat message about that, so I don't overlook you? And let me see, Jane, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Good morning.
Hey, Jane. Jane, I feel like we have been hanging out together now for several years. You feel like family going way back now.
Well, yes, I started in November of 2021, and that was after going to a couple of summits, um, you know, before that. And yes, it came at a very good time when I needed it. Of course, I needed it much earlier, but I don't regret. The time was right, and I was familiar with Feldenkrais. I worked at Berklee College of Music back in 1986, and a colleague of mine there wanted to start teaching Feldenkrais, and I would arrange the rooms and I would go to his workshops and really liked it. And he was going through his path of training, and his goal was to make that accredited course at Berklee, which he did. And 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 during my time at Berklee, I had a stroke in 2003, and that oh, I remember being in the room and saying, "What things can I use from the lessons I learned from Rich? Like you know, 5 years before or something like that." But I just knew that I could reclaim things, and also my father had had a stroke 4 years before, and I was determined, to work hard. However, I didn't realize you don't have to work hard. I didn't know that part of the process, but I was able to meet with Rich a couple of times following. Oh, yes, and also I sent a note to Dr. Andrew Weil, and asked him, I just had a stroke. What do you recommend? And he says Feldenkrais. And I said, well, okay, I know somebody who teaches that. And I had a couple lessons with Rich. I actually brought him to a stroke support group, and able to share some of that. And then unfortunately, he died very suddenly a year or two later, and so that kind of stopped me. And also too, I was coming into the part where I was coming back to work full time, and so I, you know, use some techniques, and then I had the opportunity to help set up memorial um, events in Rich's name, and had different practitioners present at Berkeley, and was open to people in Boston and the Berkeley community about Feldenkrais. This opportunity allowed me to see more about it, but it was an evening, and I'm not a very good evening person. But I would sit there and watch it, and I just would feel still different at the end of the day. I just kind of didn't quite know what was going on. And then I left Berkeley. Oh yeah, yeah. But people were just so excited about Feldenkrais and other things attached to it, and I just said I'll have to get into this. And when I retired about 10 years ago, I said, well, maybe I'll get into this. But things went along. I had a operation in 2019 where my throat was. I had throat operation because I had a large goiter on my throat, on my thyroid, and some vocal cords were removed. I mean, severed. I appreciate Kathleen's comments about choir singing because that's one of my passions. I love doing that. And I had worked myself up with some music therapy from my stroke earlier, and had gotten my voice back to kind of normal. This is this really changed for me in 2019, and then in 2020. I'm saying my voice is now improving. I know these things from my past, um, rehab, recovery, and nothing. It's not working. It's not working. I started. Then I get an email about Future Life Now, and I said I'm going to venture into this. I need it because I need connection. I am, I'm staying in the house. I can't go out. You know, if I go out, I have a mask. I have problems getting around because I have impairment on my right side.
Can I stop you right there for a second? Could you say a little more about how the stroke affected you, actually, when you say impairment on your right side? I think that's helpful.
Yeah, on my right. Okay, so in 2003, it is I have hemiplegia, which is like kind of taking you from from your head down to your toes, like a slice of your body is paralyzed. So I feel like in my hips, my under my bra, all for here, there's a paralysis, and it means also my ankle movement is impaired. That was one part. The other part was I had dysarthria, which was I wasn't even able to say the word musician, and and there's and I also had aphasia where I was like searching for words, and there was also cognition issues about emotions not being necessarily acceptable. Maybe laughing too much at places where you are, or crying when people are saying, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And so you kind of feel like a misfit in many ways. You feel like, and plus you would be told things like, "Well, what you can do in 6 months is basically what's going to happen." And so when you are given prognosis like that, well, I just say bull crap, and I just wasn't going to accept that at all. I'm not that type of person. I didn't come from that type of heritage, and so I just kept looking for things, and I was able to find programs that I was able to be in what was called Access Sport America and be involved in, saying I am an athlete. I am an athlete, regardless if I can move this foot, or regardless I can't move, bring that hand there. But you know what? If I can bring my hand like this, I may do things differently. I may learn things differently, and but I can be learning regardless. So that was
That's
so there
beautiful.
was a lot of things in terms of a stroke like that hits you on a very global sense. And then if anything assaults your body, it hits you even harder. So when actually it's 10 years ago today, I was at my workplace and I was trying to get a chair out of a closet and I tripped and hit my head against the door jamb and it created a big bruise across my whole face and kind of really shook me up for a couple of weeks and things like that. Had I had falls. I figured I had like 10 major falls in over 5 years. And I'm just saying, this has to stop, And so I have to like look at my life and change. Anyways, getting back to my voice was was restricted, and I felt I couldn't talk. And if I talked, I was so nervous, and would feel embarrassed, and I spent so much energy there. I found that I was in when I got into your learning body, I found a place of comfort. I found a place that I could give myself self compassion and I could be compassionate to other people. I found connection and I found that that connection provided me with support. And it seemed like it was usually the right support I needed at the time. I find this community very intuitive and also it can really integrate different parts of your body. In my early days of therapy, I had a physical therapist ask me to do something, and I felt I didn't move anything in my body. And she said, "That was great. That was wonderful." I go, "Well, what are you talking about, Susan?" And she says, "No, you were working really hard." And that's when I started hearing about neuroplasticity. And I go, "Oh, if you can, that's a game changer." And it became a game changer. I actually met, you know, Dr. Norman Doidge, who wrote the book about it, and I talked to him and I showed him, different things I was using. So I've just felt I was on a very different path from other stroke survivors, and that I was willing to go into any research project or into trying different things. Like I tried Pilates, gyrotonics. Um, there was, a lot of, and I did my access sport, which eventually got me going up Heartbreak Hill during the Boston Marathon. So I mean, I didn't do the whole marathon, but I got up for Heartbreak Hill, and those are moments that are tremendous, tremendous energy and happiness has happened to me. And I have found that happening for me when doing some of these classes. It was about 18 months ago. I was sitting in doing the class, and um, I felt like a weepiness and a cryingness starting, but it was with joy because it seemed like my right side and my left side are saying, "We're together. We're going to work together," and it's happening. And again, it's changing paradigms. It's reframing my life, and I just have to talk to you about my pod. My pod, we met today at
Can I just, before you go to your progress pod, can you say something about, because I see Jane, I get to watch those of you who turn your cameras on. I'm able to watch how you participate in the lessons, and sometimes even make very specific suggestions for people. And Jane, I know you have done a lot of the lessons in your imagination, or parts of the lessons in your imagination. And can you say something about that? Because I hear this contrast between, I had to try really, really, really hard, right?
Right.
And there is times when with a stroke, you have to try hard. So I'm not saying that that's not true, but I wonder if you could help us understand how this imagination piece has opened things up for you.
Imagination opened up the infinite possibilities, and that I had been plagued with a lot of scarcity in my life, times of being poor, times of failing. Um, and now I was in an environment that promoted abundance, that I have aha opportunities. And with abundance, I found energy. I found that I didn't have to worry about time. I could work on my energy. And that also, I've been I'm 73. I grew up in the 60s, working in going to college and working in the 70s, and you're the first woman who has had this job. So you're a woman. You have to work harder to get half as much, and this is what the mindset that I was growing up with. So I had to work hard. I worked overtime. I did a lot of things that other people wouldn't do. To just to get acceptable pay, just to get to a certain level. And and you learn there's no guarantees. I found that um, I changed with seeing more abundance as I started to do this work. And it came in a very gentle way, a little slowness, and it became just so accepting. But also too, I looked for it, and I think that is something what happens, that things are happening around you, but if you don't have a, a wanting or a decision to change, that you may not see it. And that's what I found.
You're definitely someone who seeks out. You definitely model incredibly well, seeking out the next available improvement, change, growth in your life. It's a phenomenal thing to watch in you, Jane.
Well,
And you
thanks.
are in a progress pod, so now I'll let you talk about that for a moment.
So my progress pod, we met this morning. Um, we had there's 3 women plus myself, and this is so cool. These are my friends. They are my friends. They became my friends. And like after I left the workplace, I kind of didn't know if I was ever gonna have friends again. You know, but the hour we have together, it's just getting richer and richer. And we and part of it is that I'm able to use the library, and we pick things like the 7 keys, and we work on them, and we also make time to digest them, so you don't have to do the rush. And so that's kind of like, I think that's what I needed. I think that's what they need. And they come their time 6 o'clock in the morning, and we get up and we start our day really off right, and it really makes a difference.
That is early. I do a 7 a.m. I have my own for my own self.
I'm 9 a.m. and they're 6 a.m. because they're
Feels
like
really
on the
early to
West
me.
Coast.
So 6 a.m. is early. So yes, and so there are different progress pods, and you can find a time zone that works for you, usually. And if not, you can volunteer to lead one at that point. So I'm going to bring up both Jane and Kathleen. If there's anybody else here that is from your learning body that we talked about you talking, and I just don't recognize you, please send me a chat message. And then we're going to open it up for questions. Anything you want to ask any of the 3 of us, we can do that. Let me grab all of us here. And we'll hear your voice and you will not be your face will not be recorded on the recording, but we'll hear your voice. So you can raise your virtual hand at the bottom of the screen. And, I think one of the things, or you can put it in the chat and we'll take it from there. I think one of the things that people want to know often is like, is it hard to log in? Is it hard to find lessons? Either one of you want to talk about that?
I went for the shortest ones
You
first.
like the short ones?
Yeah, I went to the airport one.
Oh, you went to the airport ones. They're like 2 to 5 minutes long. You did?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they were accessible to me, and they were accessible to other people, and they were very valuable because it seemed like all the other folks say, "Wow, I'm going on a trip in 3 weeks. I'm going to use it." They could see relatable experiences.
So you found it easy enough to get in and if you even find that option. You found it.
Well, I did speak with Katrina, once
Ah,
or twice, and she helped me out.
so,
Yeah,
so the art support staff was helpful.
yeah, very helpful. And then when office hours, I had brought up a question about the pods, and about what may be a next thing. Um, I You gave me some suggestions, and that worked out well. And then there's been that sometimes we have a pod leader um, email group, and and I get answers from there too.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, Kathleen, I accidentally forgot to unmute you. And then I'll start taking some of the questions from the chat, but you want to jump in on that?
Sorry, I was involved with the tech. What was the question?
I was asking, find it hard to log in and use the library? Because I think people
Ah,
can imagine that they might be able to come to the Zoom sessions, but maybe they think the library might be challenging.
yeah, different tech question. The library, the way I use the library is I'm a browser. So I like the view that you can just click into to see like all the past live classes, and there's like a little tile for each of the series, and um, I just scroll down that page and click into, whatever looks interesting. So that's the way I prefer to find classes, and it works for me. There's a lot of classes, but not so many that it's impossible to browse. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Debbie asks, is there any difference other than pricing to join annual versus monthly? No, you don't get certain features. All the features are the same. Whether you join annual or monthly, you save money over time. If you join annually, you basically get a little over 2 months free, the equivalent of 2 months free, because the price difference is less because it is less work for us if you sign up annually, so you get that benefit of it. But otherwise, there's no difference in what you get. It is a membership, so you have access to the membership while you're an active member. And if you're not an active member, that access goes away. So, and I think it's really important that you know that we're continually improving. And maybe one or both of you might want to say something about that. But we're continually improving and looking at ways that we can make it better, but it's not a static membership. So it's not a static community. I'm in there throughout the year teaching live classes. Again, if you don't want those, you don't have to use them. But there is a chance definitely for there to be some level of relationship built for sure.
Well, I
Uh,
also offer
Go
these
ahead.
special classes, like how to make fudge, or we had the cooking class, and and I think what I gained from those experiences is that the relatability of you know your learning body to other parts of what we are or what we do. It's a whole thing. It's a whole, yeah. It's a goulash.
The goulash.
I've evolved as I've been in this community from, you know, oh, my jaw is sore. I need a jaw class to I'm open to any class, any time. Like they all have a benefit and many unexpected. Like when our pod is selecting a series, I'm always the one that says, I'm open for anything. What do you guys want?
Just, the growth path, as you all might remember, the otter growth path that I present at the beginning, and then we'll go back over again after someone someone when you join, we're going to have it's actually for prior members too. We're going to have a little visioning recap over where your life is, visioning. And then for the new people, we'll actually have an orientation, and I'll talk to you about some of these things. But that otter growth path, one of the stages of growth is you have let go of thinking you have to have a specific series or specific type of lesson to solve your problem, because we are a whole being. And so we can get so overly focused thinking that it has to be lessons directly about our jaw that we don't recognize that the pelvic floor and the jaw are connected. The soles of our feet and the jaw are connected. The autonomic system, sympathetic system, it's all connected. So sometimes the solutions or the unfolding of the next step in growth come from really unexpected places, don't they, Kathleen? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, if you join and monthly and you really like it and you want to switch over, it's a little hasslesome. I tell you, it's not the easiest thing to do for you, because you'll have to have you join, and then we'll cancel one. And but yes, you can change to yearly. You for sure can, Debbie. How often are the live sessions, and how long are they? So the live sessions, I offer several different kinds of series throughout the year, and they usually they are once a week, and then I teach from between 6 and 8 weeks at a time. And then we usually offer those 2 times during the week, the same lesson. So 2 different days, 2 different times of day, to try to help with more time zones. But there's also twice in the year that we try to do a daily challenge where you actually can show up several times a day, but you would only choose one time a day. I just mean it several times so that you can find the time of day that works for you. And then we do a short lesson, usually something around the half-hour mark for those. Sometimes it is 45 minutes every day, 5 days in a row. So you can get like a bigger amount of change from the frequency, because we know that most people are going to do once a week, and that's fine. You'll get change with once a week, but almost everyone who comes to one of the week-long challenges say, oh yeah, this is like another big deposit in the bank. And then we might have the weeks, your question, how long are they? The regular ones that are more like 8 weeks long, 6 to 8 week long, the classes I try to keep them close to an hour, sometimes a little bit less. But when it's a series where a lot of new people are joining, there's usually a little longer to stay around and ask questions and things afterwards. That makes it a little bit longer if people want to stick around for that. Meditations, we don't lead live meditations typically. I will have a meditation in the visioning and orientation center, and there are meditations inside the library. We're using Larry Wells and NLP that are really totally life-changing. That's one of the bonuses that you get is there, so you can listen to those anytime. But we don't regularly lead meditations. Lessons, as some of you noticed, can be highly meditative. So you might be thinking that those are meditations. They can feel like meditations sometimes. But otherwise, we're leading awareness through movement lessons. I hope that helps, Nyla or Naya. I don't think I'm saying it right, because I'm suspecting the name is like Scottish, and that's a completely different pronunciation of that name then. Holly, can you say more about the difference between this technique and the Alexander technique? I can say a little something, and Kathleen can say a little something. So FM Alexander was before Moshe Feldenkrais, and he came from an acting background where speech was extremely important, and he was very motivated by what was happening for himself within his throat, speech. He was really interested in how, of course, the voice projected and how the person's presence appeared on the stage and how they were embodied within that. He tended to organize his work from the head and the neck. And his work does have a small group-led component, but it is mostly hands-on work. Moshe Feldenkrais came along a little bit after FM, and some people feel, some Alexander people feel Moshe stole FM's work. They're really very different works. If everybody, I know people who trained in both works, they're like they're different works. Are there some similarities? Yes, of course there are. And yes, Moshe did learn some things from Alexander. To say that he didn't would be not true. But Moshe's background was martial arts. And this is very important, completely different orientation. And in the martial arts work, he was working from the pelvis and really interested in how the pelvis organizes movement. So pelvis versus head. He was interested not in a posture, he called it dynamic ability to move in any direction, because martial arts. So he was not interested in something more static around posture, quite a bit more movement, I would say, and the ability to go into lots of different things. So the work is sometimes thought of as being extremely slow and gentle, which it can be, but it can also develop into quite large, robust movements as well. And then we have this whole huge component of awareness through movement lessons with thousands of them, because we value the neuroplasticity aspect of learning. Alexander did too. I don't want to make it sound like he didn't. He just didn't do it through the development of these lessons. Moshe said, I got to have more ways of impacting higher numbers of people than working one-on-one with them. And what could that be? He had his own knee injury, which was also just now that I injured my own knee in a somewhat similar way, I'm like, man, I don't know how he did it all those years without any. I mean, he had a much worse situation, and it was like, whoo, that man learned to use himself. So Kathleen, do you want to add anything to that?
Oh gosh, I want to hear you talk more about that. Yeah, I mean, I guess the shortest way, and I'm just talking from my limited experience, I haven't formally studied Alexander. I read a couple of his books, but my experience of the technique it was about how to do things, how to sit, how to stand, how to get up, how to get down, and that's not nothing for sure, but I feel like Feldenkrais is it's a much broader field, and it feels like there's something about the embodiment that happens with Feldenkrais that I didn't experience, or maybe I experienced only very fleetingly with Alexander. Like once your body discovers a better way to do something, it it will stick with that, and it will figure out how to use that in other situations too. Like I've repeatedly had that experience in my time with the Feldenkrais technique that um, I I don't recall experiencing to the same degree with Alexander, but maybe that's just me. But that was how I
Yeah,
experienced it.
when people ask me about, like, people probably, let's say they call me here in Cincinnati, and a few times over the years, people say, I'm trying to decide between coming to see you privately or going to an Alexander teacher privately. What do you recommend? I say, go where your heart is telling you to go. If it's telling you to come to me, then come to me. If it's telling you to go to somebody else, go to somebody else. I don't think there's any way for me to predict on a one-to-one session who is going to be the better of the two for a particular person that I've never even seen. So, but here, this is what we're doing here. You can't do with Alexander unless they're going to create a whole new body of work to go with Alexander. So this online community where we can really effectively, I mean effectively, help you reclaim your life and move into the things that you've been putting off or avoiding or let go of because you didn't think you could ever do it again or whatever. We can help you with that within this for the vast majority of people. Now, if I had seen Jane at the beginning of her stroke, I would want to see her one-to-one for probably several years. And then she's much further along. She'd already done a lot of recovery by the time she came to the online community. So it depends on, of course, the amount of effect on the stroke. But what she tells me is it was, she had a pretty profound situation. And she has learned to accept the abundance that's still within her life. And she's crediting some of her experience within your learning body, but I can tell you also, Jane is that kind of person. As she said, she keeps making life affirming choices, which is something she can model for me for sure. So I appreciate that, Jane, a lot.
Well, there's when you're in an environment that promotes growth and promotes the individual, that I'm going through my situation, and that I can see, I can discover, I can explore, and I can do it safely. That is an environment is so healing that it's not going to be shoot boom bang. However, I have had a major change in my voice in the last 6 months, and I attribute it to a few different things, but I also attribute that this constriction. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what happened, because now I can I can go la 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 la, where before we and hard to say a complete word, having not the energy to say a sentence because I had to think so hard.
Well, what you really bring forward is it's a cumulative process.
Yes.
So if you are looking for a single lesson to solve a problem, I mean, that happens sometimes. It does happen sometimes. Somebody comes to me privately or came to my classes in person, and then they didn't come back. And if I ran into them on the street, they go, well, like, I fixed my problem. I'm like, well, fantastic. That happens. It's rare. It's really rare. So I want to say that, what Jane is saying is it's a process. And so even when you don't know it, you know how you like watch a little baby learning and you're like, oh gosh, I wonder, oh, look, their fingers are moving. Oh, I wonder when they're going to be able to reach for that rattle. And the baby isn't even thinking about reaching for the rattle, really. The baby is really not quite there yet. It hasn't realized the process yet that it's engaged in. And so it isn't like saying to itself, oh my gosh, it didn't work again. I didn't get the rattle. Oh, it's not thinking that. It's thinking, feelings, it's sensing without much judgment on its part. Now, can the baby get frustrated? Eventually the baby realizes there's a possibility of reaching a rattle, and maybe it gets frustrated that it hasn't figured it out yet. And that's part of the learning process, but it's accumulating these moments of awareness and sensation and possibility. And that's what you're doing in these lessons. You're accumulating these moments of awareness and sensation and possibility. And then it will seem like sometimes, like what Jane just said, like suddenly I can do this la 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 la, whatever that is. Since I'm not a singer, we'll stop there with that. But of course I am a singer. We're all singers. I know Kathleen's going to say that as a voice teacher. But it accumulates, and suddenly you can do that thing that you didn't know, or suddenly you take a step up and it's so much simpler. Or you go to walk your dog and you trip on the sidewalk and you recover and you didn't expect to recover. So those are some things. I want to get to a couple more. So Debbie, I just want to bring this up because I think it's a great question, even though I answered in the chat. So could I get a one-on-one consultation with with me? Could she get a one-on-one consultation with me? And the answer is no, I'm not able to do that in my schedule. Unless you happen to live here in Cincinnati and I have a small block of hours that I do see people privately. But what you are able to do is come to office hours once a month. And you could even ask me now for a consultation. Nobody will see you. We don't really know who you are. And I will give you one right now, a little bit of a consultation. So you can use the time however you want in office hours. Usually there's about, it's probably about somewhere between 10 and 20 people that show up for each of the monthly office hours. And there's usually questions from about 6 people. And sometimes they're really direct. Which lessons can I do here? But sometimes people like say, look, this is my problem and I'm totally stumped about what to do. And I'm not representing myself as some physician or a physical therapist, but I do know a lot about how people can get the next best level given their situation. So I have enough background to be able to give, I think, pretty solid direction, even if it's not within the library, not within the membership. Parkinson's, I'd love to talk about this. So can you say a little bit about how this technique works for people with Parkinson's? Yes. So, Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's, dementia, they're, let's see what else, muscular dystrophy, they're different. Stroke, they're different. For sure, they're all different. But I see that the technique works well for all of these situations. Now, I want to say with stroke, the person's already had the stroke and then they're working on recovery. With something like Parkinson's or MS or dementia or Alzheimer's, there could be a continuum of it getting worse, possibly. As far as I can tell, we don't stop the nature of the progression of the disease, but we do help tremendously with keeping your available function, and we help tremendously with relieving the stress that goes with this whole process, whether the process is trying to learn how not to stiffen your face all the time, or to make your voice louder, or to have good balance as you're walking. These are all things that people with Parkinson's struggle with, to pick up your foot, to be able to find your pelvis again. I mean, I have to say that in most approaches to walking, in the rehab world is very rudimentary, extremely rudimentary. And so we're not rudimentary at all. We're down into the details of what a person needs to relearn, like they learned as a baby, minute details that have a big bang, a really, really big bang. I'll tell you, I recently had someone come in who said, like, my physical therapist is trying to help me to learn how to get my weight back on this leg, this knee, and he's got me trying to do this and that. And none of it's working. None of it's working. What can you suggest? And it took me 5 minutes to show her something. And he went back to physical therapy and he said, oh my gosh, that's incredible. You just need to do that every time before we start anything here. Just do that. So we have a lot of ability to meet people where they are, and then figure out what the next best option is. Now, Claudia, if you have something more specific you would like to ask about someone with Parkinson's, you can ask that as well. Let's see if there's anything else here coming up. We're starting to get close to the top of the hour. I love this group we have here today. It's a great group, great little and big questions. Anyone else want to even raise your physical hand? Okay.
Can I say something, Cynthia? Yeah. I was just thinking more about what is unique, at least in my experience, about Feldenkrais. It's this repeated process of asking myself, like, where can I use more of my body to do something? It's that involvement of your whole self in ways that maybe you didn't even think to ask yourself before. Um, that I think is one of the really powerful aspects.
Yeah, it is. And finding out that you don't have to try so hard, something that, you said earlier, Jane, because when you have one of these kinds of uh, things going on like Parkinson's, everything is harder. It's just all so much harder. So then to be able to find something that is not so hard to explore, it's maybe hard in a different way. You have to use your mind in a little bit different way, but it's not, you can feel success at small amounts. So I've had the privilege of also leading awareness through movement classes for people with advanced uh, dementia and advanced Parkinson's and advanced Alzheimer's. And, one of the things that I see in that is the total engagement. I mean, they're engaged. Yes, I have to teach differently, and I have to make more space, and I have to say fewer words, and my words have to be a lot clearer. But I see the absolute engagement. It's totally there. And that for me means it's a captivating moment. It's a captivating hour for them. And whether or not people see that shift in their family or not, I don't know. But I know that they've had a captivating hour with me out of a life that's very difficult. So I know that in those group environments, now I also have worked with people individually, and there I can tell what happens with them. And I feel like this is a phenomenal work for being able to keep people functional in times which are really challenging otherwise to keep them functional. So difficult though for me to teach a class. I couldn't do that online in this kind of format because I need to be able to be with people more than that. But
Well, Cynthia, you've helped me so much with when you're giving a class and you see something like, oh, you were turning, or you get voices of encouragement, or whether it may not be directed to me, or it could be to somebody else, and say, oh, she must be talking to me, but it's somebody else who's has succeeded in making a movement, and that positive reinforcement is something I expect, and it always comes into a class. And I also feel like give myself permission to be compassionate with myself, which means like if I get totally confused, left, right, up, down, and I could just say, just lay back, breathe, and just, get back into it. Maybe it takes a moment or two, and then I come back to it and I feel a little better. Or I may say, you know what, I'm just going to relax and I'll come back to it. And that's the beauty of this program, that you have so many opportunities of learning the lesson at your own pace and what works for you. Like I said earlier, I'm not very good at nighttime. I'm here during the day. So,
mhm.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I want to make a big case for not just signing up for a series here and a series there with whoever happens to be teaching. I want to make a big case for not just doing free videos off of YouTube. It's a big difference in your learning when you sign up to study with a teacher who sees you and you see them and you're in a community together. It is a big difference. So I'm going to put that out there. Will you get some benefit from the others? Absolutely, you will. But your growth will not be as sustained. It'll not be as purposeful. It'll be different. Claudia said, does this tend to bring up emotions? As I've known other kinds of body work to do. So I don't consider awareness through movement to be body work. I consider it to be learning work, learning through the movement of the mind, the psyche, and the body. So absolutely, we're moving emotions. But So, emotions can happen anywhere you give them room, and sometimes even where you don't give them room. Like, it depends on what's going on in your life, right? So, maybe you don't have as many emotional moments in the grocery store, but they can happen. You just probably stop them. And then, but in these classes where there's going to be a lot of quiet, a lot of calming of the nervous system, a lot of opportunity to find things that are challenging for you or move in new ways. Yeah, emotions of all types happen, including the happiness ones that Jane is talking about, as well as tears or anger or frustration or boredom. Boredom is actually an emotion. Yeah. And you two want to add anything about emotional states? Oh, Debbie's going to come on and ask a question too. That's great. Go ahead. Kathleen or Jane, do you want to say anything about emotions?
I'm accepting of what emotions come up, and that don't give. I go, oh, I'm a little angry here. Instead of saying I shouldn't be angry, I just go, let it pass.
Yeah,
It's just,
I am. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
no,
Jane.
I just let it pass.
I enjoy the quiet moments of the lessons, and that calming of the mind is therapeutic in itself for me. It's a time out from all that other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. People leave their cameras on a lot, but not always. So a lot of you here today don't have your cameras on. Totally your choice. But I see that people have, just like in my live classes, I see people have a wide range of responses. I do see sometimes that someone is crying, and I've seen somebody start to cry and turn off their camera. And just like in my live classes, if I was in the live class, I would probably go by and hand them a tissue. Um, Emotions are welcome, but we don't try to seek out a specific emotional response. This is really different. Some works are set up to try and lead people into certain emotional kinds of states in terms of I would say in terms of accessing past memories or difficult emotions. We don't do that. We are going to let your system decide within the experimentation and the quiet what is the right thing for you right now. So hopefully that helps. And Nyla, you can join after you finish the first series with me. So the first series is 8 weeks long. Then you can join a progress pod. And the reason for that time frame is because we don't want you to go into your little progress pods and spend all your time asking your fellow people to solve problems and questions for you. You need to do that with me and my team so that it's not a lot of work for your peers when you go into the pod. Debbie, go ahead. I'm going to let you unmute, Debbie. You see, hold it. I may have to change something here. Give me a second here. I gotta change how we are all displayed. Do I? No, I should be good. Okay, go ahead, Debbie. Unmute.
Okay. I've been battling a head cold and strep throat, so I'm getting over that. So if I sound kind of nasally, that's why. Um, I, I'm going to join because I'm going to try it. I'm to the place where, I'm not sure what to do next from what these doctors are telling me. One of them wants me to go see a specialist and do injections in my back, and I'm not crazy about that. A gastroenterologist of all people, he suggested to go do some acupuncture, and I thought maybe. But I'm still thinking that all of this has um, the root cause of all of it has been nervous system dysfunction. And I'm hoping that the program can help me from what, I'm hearing, the mind body thing, to do some things that are going to relieve this pain that I'm having. A very unusual kind of thing, if you ask me. But um,
Can you remind
my
me? I know we talked
uh,
before, but I've talked to a lot of people. Can you
well,
remind me about your pain again?
it was about 8 years ago when the situation happened, and I believe what I had was adrenal fatigue, really bad. I mean, I was bedbound, and then COVID came, and I became very fearful of just anybody, being around me or by me or anything, because I didn't want to, have to catch anything. And so I isolated myself. I was on the couch, a good portion of the day, and more or less in like a fetal period. And so what happens, the lower groin area and abdomen became very painful, and my anal area. And I thought, and I didn't want to go to the doctor. Um, and I thought I had hemorrhoids. So I was treating that for like a couple years. And then finally it was like, no, you have to go have a colonoscopy and, get this checked out and go. I did that, and we did CAT scan, and now I did a lumbar MRI. And there's some issues there, but they're not, coming up with an answer to why the pain is there.
Okay,
And so,
you reminded me, so I appreciate that. I knew that we had talked, but I just couldn't quite remember the
so my
details.
my questions are, I joined the program, then how do I know where to start, what to do to, help relieve that situation?
Mhm.
Or does it all just work together, no matter what
It all
exercises you
works together. It all works together. The majority of cases, it all works together. And I am going to try to help you defocus from the problem as much as you can, because the more you focus on the problem, the more you're isolated from your resources. And that's actually what happened to you. That's what you described happening to you during COVID. So you isolate, it's already your tendency to isolate away from and try to solve it on your own. And then what happens is, as we come down more and more and more like this, we shrink into ourselves, the problems tend to just start to get larger. Now, it can be the opposite, where somebody tries to go out and they only think all the solutions are out there. So it's always a balance, right? But you've already done a beautiful job of saying what you already know about yourself. And so when in our work, we want to take our mind away from that thing that is now just like drilling on us all the time. That pain down there, that pain down there. What's causing it? What's causing that pain down there? What's causing it? Why can't anybody help me? That those things that start to just like, oh, it's like you can't get away from them, right? And and we want to start to loosen that, what has become a habit in the nervous system, to obsess about that area. Totally normal, because it's what hurts. And so nervous systems are set up to do that, but we still have to help it not do it. We have to find a way to get another track running. This track can still run and tell you about the pain, but we got to get another track running, which is a completely different way of being. So this one can still be going like super fast. This one over here is going to be going slowing down, opening the potential resources throughout yourself. So do I think that it could help a lot over time? I do. Do I know for sure it will solve the problem? Of course I don't. I mean, that would just be unethical for me to say that. But I think if you can stick with it, Debbie, and I mean, I don't think it'll be an 8-week solution, but I
yeah.
think within 8 weeks, you may have a sense of trying to figure out where that came from. You may have a sense of, oh, this is going in a good direction for me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I hope that helps. I just, it's so difficult because we have these problems that come up, and you're not going to be alone in having a problem that's unsolvable. I've had a problem that's unsolvable that nobody can help with. And so then it comes back to, okay, like, what can I do for myself? What can I do for myself? And so that's what you're trying to figure out now. Good
Yeah.
for you. Good for you. Good for you. That's what you're trying to do. But you're trying to do it not by isolating. You're something different here now, right? Something
I
different.
guess.
Yeah, it's something different, girl. It's something different. You can claim it. You're thinking about joining a community of people who are also trying to solve or improve their life in some way. So you're taking a step in a different direction. And I don't know, I can't give you answers about injections, not injections. All those can be researched pretty well. Typically, most of the kinds of injections that are offered don't have great research results, but you have a different situation. I don't know that there would be research out for your specific thing, and without knowing more about what your MRIs and stuff showed, I would have to
Right,
have.
right. And that's what my concern was. It's like I can go see these doctors, but they don't know the rest of the stuff. And are they going to listen to what I'm saying to them and, believe it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know the answers to those things. Hopefully they would believe them, but there is a great, I'm a proponent. I came out of the medical system. I'm a proponent for the medical system, but it does have some areas that it has difficulties with. And when it doesn't know a solution to a problem, sometimes it throws things at it that don't really have any good research results behind them. They want to solve it and they throw things at it. So it sounds like you might be in one of those situations where giving this a try, as long as you have not been told there's anything major going on with you, giving this a try is a good thing. If you have been told that there's got major things, send me the results of your MRI so I can just take a look at the results, okay? By support@futurelifenow.com. Okay. Listen, thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate it. It was a great discussion group. Uh, good, good guests, Jane and Kathleen. And we're gonna say goodbye for now. Yeah, thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.